we're traveling A to Z.
This week we're cruising down the Nile River in Egypt.
So right now we are making our way on the Nile River on the river cruise. On this river from Aswan to Luxor. Yesterday on our river cruise we stopped by Luxor Temple and also Kamobu Temple. Today we're going to stop at Edfu Temple and Luxor Temple. We're in Edfu and we're going to take a horse carriage to the temple. Look at the horses! Morning! We're on a horse carriage! We're in Edfu. This is our second stop on our Nile River cruise. And it's early in the morning. It's like 6:30 in the morning. And we're here for about an hour and a half. And then we head to the next temple. Apparently there's about 22 temples near Luxor. We're only going to 2 of them. But that's our next stop, is Luxor. We got this slow horse. Everyone keeps passing us.
Yeah, Seabiscuit is not this horse.
But it's fun. Just having the ride is fun. Hey, I feel a little safer in the horse carriage than in a car in Cairo. Now that's some crazy driving. I've never seen worse drivers than anywhere but Cairo, Egypt. It's like bumper cars is their thing. There is no car that doesn't have a dent or 2 or 10 dents in it. And even our driver got in a wreck while we were in the car. He gets out, looks at me like, yeah, it's okay. Hits the car and we kept going. It's crazy. So this is Edfu, a Greek Roman temple that we're gonna go visit right now. And it looks really impressive. Very big, tall, flat side. It's very different than some of the other ones we have seen that have been built into the mountains.
So this is Edfu Temple. It is the most preserved temple in Egypt. It is a Greek-Roman style temple, so it's about 2,000 years old-ish. It is dedicated to the god Horus. And yeah, I'm gonna go check it out.
So this is preserved a lot because it was actually under sand for a long time and then they discovered it. So this is all original, wasn't moved like some of the other temples. And the temple is surrounded by a mud wall. This side is actually original. It helps, it's basically like their air conditioner, plus it also helps muffle the sound so you can't hear in or out as much. The wall on the other side of the temple was restored and is not original. This temple is allocated by King Bartholomew III. On the front of the temple, you could see King Bartholomew III fighting the animals and giving it as an offering to Horus. This temple was one of the last Egyptian temples built in the history of ancient Egypt. As you walk into the temple, there's a courtyard that is surrounded by columns. There's 12 columns on one side that represents 12 hours in a day, and then there's 12 columns on the other side that represents 12 hours at night. So we're walking around the whole outside and you can see everything is detailed really well. We're now going back to the boat to head to our next temple. We're on the Nile and we have to go through this bridge so we can keep going on the Nile. Wow, look how close we are to the wall. Well, we made it through the little bridge. That's pretty cool. All we did was float through there. We're now heading through Edfu Lock, which is a dam system located on the Nile River. When a boat enters the lock, the gates are closed behind it and the water level in the lock is adjusted to match the level of the river downstream. Once the water levels equalize, the gates open on the downstream side of the lock and are opened, and a boat can continue down the river. The Edfu Lock was built with an elevation difference of 8 meters. We're watching the locks. We're probably at least 25 feet now from the other boat, which is way above my head.
This is so cool. I don't know that I've ever been in a boat going through locks before. This is awesome.
Now I know why none of the river cruise boats have balconies, because they would take the balconies off in these little tiny locks. We're gonna run this little boat over. Look at this. Oh gosh. All that work to get under this little bridge. Unfortunately, we are on our last night. We're gonna hit Luxor later this evening and then spend the night on a boat, and then we hit the Valley of Kings tomorrow. So we are coming up to Luxor right now. It's right behind me. We're gonna dock and go see our next temple.
We made it to Luxor.
This evening, we're visiting Luxor Temple, which is on the east bank of the Nile. Luxor Temple is one of the 2 primary temples on the east bank other than Karnak. It is unusual because it's not dedicated to a cult god or a pharaoh in death. Instead, Luxor Temple is dedicated to the rejuvenation of kingship. It was thought that many different pharaohs of Egypt were crowned at this temple. The temple used to have 2 pillars. The pillars were made of red granite and about 25 meters long and are more than 3,000 years old. One still stands at the temple while the other is in France. One of the pillars was gifted to France in 1833 in exchange for a French mechanical clock that was discovered to be faulty. The clock was then mounted at the Tower of Cairo, but it still does not work. The ancient temple of Luxor had 6 massive statues of the prophet Ramesses the Great. He was the 3rd pharaoh of the 19th century reign. Only 2 of the statues are still intact. Most of the ruins and artifacts at the site have been preserved and are still in their original forms. The monument and beautiful carvings are still intact. There are several towers at the temple that stretch up to 70 yards long. Its northern entrance is lined in a sacred way known as the Avenue of the Sphinx. Its massive courtyard has some preserved columns on its east side. The courtyard dates back to the first pharaohs of Egypt. There are at least 32 columns that lead to the inner chamber that serve as a church during the Roman Empire.
So that is a mosque up there. Apparently this whole place was buried in sand, and when the Muslims came along, they found this nice wall, so they built their mosque on top of it. Then they dug into the sand and realized this temple was here. They had no idea.
The only temple that has 3 different actual religions and worship places in it. Luxor Temple is a beautiful temple to see in the evening time when it's all lit up. I hope you enjoyed watching our video of our last day on our river cruise. Join us for our next video as we take you to the Valley of the Gods and also a hot air balloon.